Hello, greetings and welcome. My name is Jamie Ann Jacobin. I'm the Executive Director of the James Renwick Alliance for Craft. I'm so pleased to have everyone here joining us with Debora Moore for our Distinguished Artist Series, which is the first of the season. If you are new and have not attended one of our craft events in the past, the Alliance is really about the connoisseurship, the education, and public appreciation of American craft. We are located in Washington, D.C., and are a membership-based organization. So if you're interested in today's program, we have plenty of other ones that are coming up. Make sure to sign up to be on our mailing list and become a member. With that, I'm going to introduce Rebecca Ravenel, who is the president of the JRACraft board and also the chair of the Distinguished Artist Series. So, Rebecca.
Thank you, Jamie Ann. Yes, I'm Rebecca Ravenel, and welcome and thank you for joining us today. Our presenter today is glass artist extraordinaire, Debora Moore. Debora excels at creating forms that capture the beauty and grandeur of nature, infused with her unique personal expression. With a special interest in orchids, she's traveled extensively, studying her subject deeply so that she can translate this into stunning, powerful sculptures. Debora has taught and worked all over the world, including at Pilchuck as a member of Dale Chihuly's team, and as the first female and African-American artist in residence at the famed Abate Zanati on Murano Island. We're thrilled that Debora is joining us this week for two special events. This first virtual talk on her long career, and a second in-person event later this week in Washington, D.C., that will highlight more of her process and her orchid knowledge. Thank you so much for being here today, Debora.
Well, thank you so much. I just want to thank you, Rebecca Ravenel, Jamie Ann Jacobin. I deeply appreciate the support and enthusiasm, the level of enthusiasm for my work. I'm honored to be here today with you all. And I'm planning to provide an overview of my work through images, and I will start with going through different series and different practices. So I will start with my earlier works, and then I will go to my latest works, Arborea. So here we have an image in 1985. My husband, Benjamin Moore, created Benjamin Moore Studio, BMI, and he wanted to create a hot shop and a space to help other artists come together and create their works. And I've been working here for the last 30 years. This is our hot shop with my husband, Benjamin Moore, and we have, well, this is actually a slide that's a perfect example of team working. And in the hot shop with my husband, Benjamin Moore, we have Preston Singletary, Brian Pike, Tony Biancanello, and my granddaughter, Tatiana Mayo. And I just love working with kids. So at this point, I've decided to venture out and explore different museums around the world, as well as gardens. I traveled throughout the world, and I found that the Musée d'Orsay in Paris to be one of my favorite museums. Gardens, Boboli Gardens in Florence, Italy. And here, this image, I like to talk about inspiration, whereas you can find inspiration in anywhere you go through things that you least expect. In 1996, I went to Nijima Glass School, a glass festival in Nijima, Japan with my husband. And while he was working, I walked along the coastline in the countryside, and I was totally inspired and moved by this Shinto shrine. So in this image, I wanted to talk about the Bosch Glas collection of beautiful, true to life creations of flowers and plants. They're sometimes known as glass flowers of Harvard, but the Bosch Glass, they were the father and son team based in Dresden, Germany. And this is opposite. I chose this image because it's opposite of what I do. What they did was create models and exact replicas of the actual plant or flower or study, whatever they were studying. They used not just blown glass, but lamp working, glue, pigments, and other things to create that. And I don't do that. And what I do is more organic and more sculptural to just glass without all the other lamp working and things like that. So here I'm trying to give you an understanding of my background and where I'm coming from. And Martinuzzi was one of my favorite designers. Napoleon Martinuzzi was a designer for the Vanini factory in Murano, Italy, during the late 20s and 30s. Here's a series of plants that Martinuzzi put together, and I was very much impressed by it. It was his vision. It was beautiful. And so I was influenced by that. So now I am in a total phase of everything Italian. I was influenced by Italian aesthetics, glass blowing techniques. As you can see, the yellow, red sunflowers, even the little marinis in the center are Italian. The vessel, the clear glass, and everything had to be Italian at this point in my career. So I decided to show this image because it's more painterly and I'm becoming more organic in my work and trying to move away from everything that is Italian. But yet I can't, and I'm moving into the orchid phase. And at this stage, I ventured around the world, yet still holding on to Italian techniques on the pedestal, the bottle, the blown stem. Everything is still blown, but yet the orchid in juxtaposition to the bottle, the vessel, is more organic, and this is where I wanted to start my focus. So I circled back around, and I just threw this in 30 years or so, or 25 years of trying to move away from the vessel. Excuse me. At this point, I circled back around in 2021 and I made this orchid in vase. And it's a perfect example of circling back around to your very beginning and what you were influenced by, and then kind of going back into experimenting again. So now I've decided that I need to study orchids in their natural environment. And Jamaica has 66 indigenous orchids in the Blue Mountains. Now, you can look that up or quote me, but I think it's 66, so I'm not sure, I'm not exact. But it was a place that I thought that I could maybe get a guide and go and study orchids in a natural environment so that I could capture the essence of the orchid and the essence of the feeling behind the orchid and why I was so in love with it. Well, that did not happen. I tried to hire a guide and they ended up taking me to the Cranbrook flower forest, which is in a controlled environment. And it wasn't quite what I was looking for, but I actually was influenced by other things. And so I decided to move on. And this is an image of one of my first interpretations of a Brassia spider orchid in 2000. And I was so excited, but yet I'm still hanging on to the vessel, the bowl, and not quite getting to the point where I'm envisioning or seeing um, my view or my perspective of what it was I was trying to say with glass. So here again, I'm decided that I really want to work with orchids, and I'm making clusters of orchids, but yet I'm still using these Italian techniques, the vessel and the glass, the shiny glass, but yet feel like I'm getting more organic in this. So the next few slides will be showing clusters of glass, and then we will look at the more stylized leaf, where I'm actually able to move from the pedestal to the wall. And this was exciting for me. So Thailand. So I decided Jamaica wasn't quite what I was looking for. It was, but I couldn't really get a guide that I wanted to. So I thought Thailand would be the place to go, and I could go and research orchids in their natural environment. And again, I move to a controlled environment with a guide. And I'm thinking to myself, am I ever going to be this orchid hunter that I want to become or go out and experiment? But yet, we learn lessons in ways we don't quite understand. And I was very much influenced by this controlled environment, but I was mostly influenced by bamboo in Thailand. And so we'll go through these next few series of my bamboo series. So now I'm having a show at the Tacoma Art Museum in 2005. And my influence from Thailand really showed through this hanging bamboo garden. And this is just the next shot or two are the overviews of the show, but this is more of a detail of the hanging bamboo garden that I made. And I was so influenced by bamboo that it really came through during the show. This is the actual detail, kind of looking up underneath and seeing this kinetic piece and these pieces that can move and spin around each other. Excuse me. So this is the beginning of my tree series, and I didn't realize how long a series takes and where the beginning starts, but this is the beginning. And I think it's important to show how far it's come. This is a detail. Cascading leaves, which was part of the show, one of the installations, which was exciting for me to make all the prints and the patterns on the leaves. Orchid tree. So this is the actual first orchid tree that I made. And it was very exciting, but I was asking the viewer to connect the lines and to see the tree as I was seeing it. And so it was a little bit abstract, but it felt really good and exciting to move towards this direction. making different components with the orchid tree made it easier for me to do myself, by myself with maybe one other assistant, and to focus on the texture and the lines while asking the viewer again to connect the lines um, in the piece so that they could see the tree. This is an overall view of the show, and I didn't realize how important that was. So this would be the next um, orchid tree, and it would seem like the rest of my career would kind of move towards texture um, and these tree-like installations. Here you can see the detail of the moss and lichen um, and the orchid as well. And I love the ethereal feeling in juxtaposition of orchid to the crunchy, thick stem or branch or log of the tree. We have summer, and summer reflects my favorite colors. So now I'm going to move into um, a commission work that I do a lot of commission work. And this was one of the most interesting for me at the time. It was the Katzman Commission, where the architect had sent me the blueprint of the area that I was working with, and I had never worked with a corbel arch, and I had to kind of research that and fit my piece in between this small area and then work around this corbel arch. And once I got moving through it, it kind of opened my world a little bit more to understand that there are no limitations with my work. I can fit things in and continue to move and add space. So this is an image of actually going to install a piece that this is a little different commission, but the back of their walls was this special, very special wood. And I didn't want to damage it or anything, but I realized that this was my templates that I use when I install the work was very important. And I always use a template now, just so that it's a guideline and I can find my way back to where I once started, because it becomes very complicated as you move forward and wanting to take down, put back, install, deinstall the pieces. So I'm installing the pieces here behind the template that I had placed up. This is a mock-up of it in my studio, and every time I do anything, I mock it up in my studio. This is the actual finished installation, and I'm so happy I didn't put any mistakes like holes in the wood or anything like that due to the template, and it seemed to me to actually turn out perfect. So now I'm on to another adventure, and my assistant insisted that I put 4 slides in one so that we can get through this. So I decided to go to Antarctica in 2007. I had a friend who was studying ice around the world, and she insisted that I get on this Russian research vessel with her, and I had to come up with something to study. And in these 4 images, you see icebergs and dolphin swimming underwater. But the most important thing was the color. I've never seen a blue color like this before. And the air was so clear, crystal clear and pure. It was perfect. So my study was moss and lichen and any vegetation that grew in Antarctica. Of course, there are no orchids that grow in Antarctica, but there are tufts of grass, lichen, and then there's a river of algae. Um, so there are over 300 different species of non-marine algae. And I thought we should take note. And this is just, it was just beautiful to see, especially in Antarctica. And now we have a flipped iceberg. And this particular, why it's so relevant to show you, is that I totally got into um, this. I looked at it as a sculpture, and it reminded me of battuto. And battuto means hammer in Italian, and it's a technique of chipping out and hammering the glass. But I felt like I needed to go back to um, what I was interested in, more interested in, and that was temperate rainforest. And so this, I thought I could apply some of the things that I had seen, and I started the host series. So the host series is based on the fact that orchids do not attach themselves. I mean, orchids do attach themselves to rocks, trees, and they don't absorb any of the nutrients from the tree or harm whatever they attach themselves to. Their roots are exposed and they grow hydroponically. I was trying to apply some of the moss and lichen that I had studied in Antarctica, but it just was burning out and not working well. So now it's starting to become more of what I'm looking at. I have moved away from the pedestal and back to this pedestal with these host pieces, and I'm incorporating a lot of information in these sculptures. Pink Lady Slipper, I was part of the host series. And here you can see how the lichen and the moss have really taken over and how organic things have changed. And this is purple epidendrum. So this next photo or image is called Host 10, and it was part of the Rakow Commission at the Corning Museum. And I was so excited to be part of their collection. And then actually what's significant behind this is I'm adding pods to my plants and orchids, whether they need pods or not, or there are actual pods on this particular plant. I just used artistic license to do so and add. So we're going through more of this tree series, and I'm so excited that I've become more sculptural in my work and moving back and forth from the pedestal to the wall. Now, I included this host image because this, I'm trying to put so much information in this sculpture. So and it also is a perfect example as to why I love to work with glass so much. It reflects and transmits light perfectly. It's light and airy juxtaposition to the heaviness of the log. I was able to create texture, moss, lichen, and I'm asking the viewer to kind of take in all of this information in this one sculpture. Again, we're going through the series, the same series, the host series. So the next couple of images will be the host series. if I can just say on this particular image, this is my favorite. It's blue epiphyte, and it's my favorite color combination. It reminds me of Earth, the sky, the oceans, the seas, and then the forest. And we have the blue and green, and blue, green, and slight hints of yellow. It's really hard to work with green in glass. I studied green for a couple of years, a few years, several years. I'm still studying green. It's hard because it's a combination of colors that you use, but this is a good example of my favorite color combination. So again, I'm back at the pedestal, but yet I'm creating these tree series pieces that are happy and whimsical, but yet still within my natural perspective and trying to capture the essence of the orchid. Yellow lady slipper, and this is a combination of two pieces together. And I was just really excited about adding all the things that I wanted to this sculpture. A little bit of the detail. So again, lady slippers really don't have pods, and the only orchid that pretty much does, which most people don't know about, is vanilla. Vanilla comes from Vanilla panifolia, and it has an orchid, it has a vanilla bean on it. But I just love orchids, so I love pods, so I just add pods to everything that I feel like I need to. So I needed another adventure. And so I am in Turkey at Ephesus, and these are combinations of images of Diana of Ephesus and then the goddesses of the Amazon, and we'll move into the nymph series. The Library of Celsius, and it's one of my favorite moments at Ephesus. It was very quiet. I was there very early in the morning, and I was able to capture these shots without tourists being in thousands of tourists being involved in the image. So this is a great image of Library Celsius, and the Library Celsius was burned down to the ground because people weren't, the people of the time were trying to change education and the information that we all have. So we lost a lot of information during the burning of this beautiful museum. So I was able to capture the 4 images of these beautiful sculptures of women. And one is knowledge, intelligence, wisdom, and valor. And just to think about what they stood for in front of this incredible museum, I was very much moved by. And it still burns inside of my heart to think about these beautiful sculptures. So I decided to start the nymph series once I had returned from, excuse me, Turkey. And so nymphs are to protect the oceans, seas, forest, mountains, whatever you want them to protect. And so I started this series to protect my glass orchid series that I had been working on so hard. And I wanted something to reflect my feelings from Ephesus. So I just wanted, thank you. I just wanted you to know that these pieces were blown whole, and then in the cold shop, we went in and we carved out the back to shape and form. And so for those of you who don't really know about glass or glass blowing, so hot is working in front of the furnace, and then cold working is going to the grinding machines and the diamond wheels and things like that. And so to cut and carve something like this was a very great feat for me at the time. So now we're moving to the Gigantica series. And again, my favorite color combination, blue and green. And this is just to kind of show you artistic license. There are no orchids that uh, look like this, that are blue in color and have a pod, but I took artistic license to do so, and I had such a wonderful time. And so the next few slides are part of the Gigantica series, where I really wanted to just zoom in to the center of the flower, the labellum of the orchid, and to just focus on that. So we have Pink Lady Slipper, one of my favorites again. And now in this is part of the Gigantica series that sits on a table and that stands on 3 points, a tripod. And I focused on patterns and color and just really had fun with just the flower, no backing or no branch or anything else. Purple Lady Slipper. So here in excuse me, in 2015, I had a show at the Northwest African American Museum here in Seattle, Washington. And I wanted to put together an installation that showed flowers from 1997 to 2015. And this is an installation called Orchid Asia. Now on the same here, installation from 2010, hanging orchid plants in a specimen box. And I just love this kinetic piece because each orchid could spin on its own around and not hit each other. And it was like they were floating in the air. White bamboo was part of the installation at the Northwest African American Museum. I absolutely enjoyed working with white. I really didn't know that there were white bamboo, an actual white bamboo, when I started this project until I started to do research. But I just wanted to create what was in my mind's eye, and as if I were orchid hunting. There are over, or just about, not quite 100 pieces of bamboo in this installation, but only 3 flowers. So this is one of the flowers that I wanted to camouflage. You don't really see red centers in nature for orchids, but I decided to make this a little, have a red center because it reminded me of like orchid hunting and trying to spot this orchid in this forest of bamboo or just forest in general. So I'm bringing you to present day. This is in 2019, I had a show at the Tacoma Art Museum called Arborea, which traveled to the Renwick Museum of American Craft. Cherry, this is Cherry, which was acquisitioned by the Renwick Museum of American Craft. A detail, magnolia. So I just want you to know that all these trees are blown glass and the flowers are blown. The stone is natural. Stones that I go and I work really hard to pick out which stone that I want. And then I blow the first piece actually onto the stone so that I can build up from there. A detail of the magnolia. And this is also another detail. And it was so much fun to, and exciting to kind of create this new technique. All of these trees have metal armatures on the inside. Winter plum. And this is where it's really important to have a metal armature. This piece is cantilevered over, and the inside is what is holding it all up and together. This detail image of winter plum, you're more able to see the ice and to create this winter feeling through glass, and using just clear crushed glass to create this winter feeling and encasing these succulent plums at this point in time of the year. Okay, so we have the wisteria, was the fourth tree that I made. And it was a wonderful feat to be able to make this wisteria, because wisteria is a legume. It is not a tree, but there is the art of bonsai, and you can turn it into a bonsai tree, or there's the art of glass making, and you can turn it into a giant tree. But it was a challenge. It was fun, and all I could do is suggest to the viewer that through color and form that this was wisteria. I could never in a million years make every petal like the true wisteria, but I can suggest to the viewer that this is wisteria. Thank you so much for your interest in joining me today. It was exciting and fun to be able to share.